Welcome to this episode of One on One with Mitch Lafon. Joining me this week, it is guitarist Wolf Hoffmann from the band Accept. His new solo album is Headbangers Symphony. We talk about that, photography, Accept, and a lot more. Before we get into it, please check me out on Twitter at Mitch Lafon, MITCHLAFON, and on Facebook, One on One Mitch Lafon. And with that, here is the one, the only, guitarist Wolf Hoffmann. We are speaking with Accept guitarist Wolf Hoffmann. The new album is Headbangers Symphony. Always a pleasure, Wolf. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, very well. I just before we got started, I was telling you that I've been listening to the Headbangers Symphony all afternoon, and I will say this for all to hear. It is spectacular. It is just incredible work.
Thank you very much. That makes me very happy.
Yeah, and so I was also mentioning the first track, and correct me on my pronunciation, but Scherzo?
Well, I say scherzo, but I don't know how to say it properly myself. Just,
there you go.
That's what Mr. Beethoven named it. It's one of the movements of one of his symphonies, so don't blame me for that.
Symphony number 9.
Yeah.
And it's you also used it with Accept, with the song Teutonic Terror. Talk to me a bit about using that classical stuff in other songs like Accept and otherwise.
Yeah, well, I have to correct you a little bit. Here's what happened. Years ago, I was starting to work on this classical stuff, namely this piece, Beethoven, and I came up with that riff for this piece that sort of matched the original composition, but this is really my riff. And so I played this piece, or the whole project, to the guys when we got back together in 2009, and we thought about writing songs for Accept, and everybody loved that riff so much that pretty much they asked me, hey, can we not steal this or use this riff? So I said, of course, yeah. And we did, and we wrote Teutonic Terror around or based on that riff. But this riff was originally written for this scherzo piece, so that's where it came from. But it's actually not this riff is not a classical thing. It just sort of happens to fit with the classical composition.
Yeah, it really does. So talk to me about the album. You know, the last one was in 1997, just called Classical.
Right.
What were you trying to do with this one? Because it is somewhat different to classical. I mean, it's certainly more metal-ish, if you want.
Yeah, I mean, it just came out differently, and one of the main difference, or the biggest difference, is really the fact that I'm using orchestral instruments. I'm using a classical orchestra this time around, where the first album was strictly guitar players, music, just didn't want to use anybody else but basically drums, guitars, and a bass guitar. And so that's what the difference is. Other than that, the idea of the whole thing is quite similar, actually. I'm using well-known classical pieces and just sort of interpret them my own special way, making it rock instrumentals out of them the way I like to do, just the way I see fit.
Right. Would you consider composing your own classical pieces and not just sort of retake the classics? Have you ever considered, writing new?
No. First of all, I'm not classically trained, and I've never had any ambitions of competing in that world, really. All I'm really doing is, to me, it's a tribute project to classical music. I'm first and foremost, I'm a metal player, a rock guitar player, and I'm just sort of dipping my toe into that world and paying respect to that world by doing this music. But I would never in a million years try to, cross over and really write in that way or even perform in that way. I'm, like I said, never wanted to and probably never will do that.
Is there a chance that you would want to take Accept into a more symphonic metal, even if it's just one album, do something like a Nightwish or, a Within Temptation and try that with the band?
Probably not. No, I can't see that really, because we want to stay true to what Accept is and what we do and what fans want to hear from us. But I tell you this, now that I've heard this album and it turned out see how well it actually blends and how heavy it really is, this Headbanger Symphony, it would be mighty tempting to use some of the except original compositions and putting strings to them, but that's maybe the extent of what we ever might do. I don't think we'll ever really change our style and become a symphonic metal band. That'll never happen.
Wait, no, well, maybe not a band for the long term, but maybe one album. But I like that idea.
Yeah, not even one album. Okay. Yeah.
I do like the idea of taking some of the classical pieces and, the classic Accept songs and redoing it. I think that would be fantastic. I mean, Metallica's done it. Kiss has done it. Why not Accept?
Yeah, we'd have to wait and see how well it actually works. But I can now imagine it more than I did before I did this whole thing, because in the past I've always said, well, no, we're not about that. We're a guitar band writing riffs and we're making metal and this is all we do. And I didn't really want to water down the message, if you want, or really do anything that wouldn't fit, but now that I hear how well it actually blends, I'm thinking like, maybe one day, why not?
Maybe one day. With Accept being in its, 35th year or more at this point?
Yeah.
Are there rules that you have to follow? I mean, do you have to make a sort of Accept album? Can you not stretch the bounds at this point? Or is that still, you have to be careful about branding and about what the fans expect?
Well, that's the $1 million question. How far can you go and how far should you not go? Or what, And my experience, having done this for a while now, is you want to try to stay true to yourself, but just get better and expand quality-wise, but really not trying to get any different. Because to me, it's always easy to do something that you haven't done before, like you mentioned, symphonic metal. I think it would be fun, and it would be, in a weird way, quite easy for us to do because we've never done it, and it's all new territory, and, the sky is the limit. You can do whatever, and it's always going to be yay. But if you're in your own style and you've written 100+ songs and published, actually we've written thousands of songs in that genre, and it's only published 150 maybe. But, all of a sudden you have this vast archive of work that you get measured by, and you can't repeat yourself, but you want to do more of that. So it gets harder and harder over time.
It really does. Now, the album, of course, just came out at the beginning of July. Yeah. Where do you see yourself going with it in terms of, will there be sort of shows or one special show in Germany or in Nashville or somewhere? Or is it just, hey, fans, enjoy this album. I got some Accept work to do now?
Pretty much that. Okay. Hey, fans, here it is. But if there was ever a show, I'd love to do it. Yeah. But honestly, I haven't even thought any further than this album. Just wanted to make this album, get it done the best possible way I can, and have it out in the world, let fans enjoy it, get some reactions, and then we'll look further. Next step, if we're going to go that way, would most certainly be, like you say, a live presentation. I can't really see a tour at this point ever, just because it's so complicated to tour with orchestras and all that. But, a one show, a spectacular show somewhere with a big orchestra production, that would be, wow, that would be great.
Yeah, I think
that's what I'm hoping might happen one day. But nothing has really been announced or set in stone yet.
No. Well, it certainly would be interesting. Now, you had Peter Baltz, I guess, work on the album. Mm-hmm. He, of course, is in Accept, and he's worked with you for many, many years. Right. Talk to me about Peter and what does he bring to Accept and to this project?
Well, of course, he's one of the founding members of Accept, and he's my best buddy for, all these years. So we work together on just about everything we do. And naturally, now that I've done this classical thing, I pretty much dragged him into the studio and forced him to play on it. But quite honestly, it's not really his thing. It's really this is my sort of baby. And, but naturally, since he's an awesome bass player, and there was quite heavy tracks that, have some riffs that are similar to Accept, I wanted him to play on it, because I don't know anybody better to do it. So, like I said, I dragged him into the studio and we did it, but that might be the extent of the his involvement on this. It's certainly my thing that I've been working on for years and years and years and years. And Accept was always busy. That's why I wasn't released earlier. But and that now that we had a little bit of time off, I thought this was the time to get it out into the world.
Yeah, and it came out great. I want to talk to you also about some of your other passions and the other things you do, because people know the Accept story.
Mm-hmm.
Wolf Hoffmann Photography. You're a commercial photographer based out of Nashville. You're doing advertising, lifestyle photography, environmental portraits, and other stuff.
Right.
Talk to me about that. Where did that come from? And would you ever do concert photography when you're on a festival, get out there with your camera and shoot some of the other bands? Talk to me about that interest.
Yeah, I mean, photography for me developed a long time ago when we started touring, and we were kids from Germany for the first time traveling to the U.S., to Japan, and all these exotic places that we, were new. And I just wanted to document everything, and I got a little camera, and my wife always encouraged me and said, "Hey, these photos are great. These are better than others." And so I stuck with it over the years, and it developed into pretty much an obsession. I got bigger, better cameras, and had a dark room, and I couldn't get enough of it. It's always number one. My number one passion was always music, but number two was photography for many years. And then Accept came to a long hiatus, and I thought, like, what do I do now? And the choice was quite clear. I became a photographer, and I eventually gravitated towards the commercial side of things, because it's one thing if you're just having fun, but if you're trying to make a living with it, you sort of find the fields of photography that actually pay well and have a bigger budget, and those are advertising and the commercial side of things, not the art side of things. And unfortunately, in the music world, this is like, concert photographers, I admire them. They're amazing, and it's an art form in itself. But I have never done that. I probably never will.
Would you ever consider shooting the cover of an Accept album?
As a matter of fact, I have. Just because I am a photographer and was a photographer for many years. I've taken some pictures for some album covers. Yeah, Blood of the Nations. What else did I do? Objection Overruled.
There you go.
Let's see. There's a few of them.
Oh, that's great. Now, you did mention those albums, and the last one was Blind Rage in 2014. Where do we see ourselves going with Accept in 2017? Is there a new album that is written?
Well, we're trying very hard right now to come up with enough songs to fill an album. Peter and I are meeting all the time, probably tomorrow, actually, again, and we're just going through ideas that we've collected over the year, over time, and we're writing new stuff all the time. And when we have enough, yes, we will call Andy Sneed, we will call the other guys, Mark and everybody, and get them together and start working on recording the new album. Hopefully we get it done this year, and that's the goal. And then hopefully we can release it next year, 2017.
I certainly hope so. How important is it for the band to make new music? Because you really could just throw your name up on the marquee and go do Balls to the Wall and Restless and Wild and Metal Heart, and
right.
and fans would show up.
Yeah, but for us it was very important, especially since we got Mark, and when we had our reunion with Mark, the new singer, we really wanted to show to the fans and to us that we still can write relevant new songs. And so that's why we really did 3 albums in 5 or 6 years, really banged them out one after the other. And those 3 albums are, in a lot of fans' views, as strong as most of the stuff we've done in the 80s, if not stronger. So I think it's very important for us to come up with new songs, because, once you stop trying or you just living off the past, I think that's no good. Really, we're trying to stay relevant, and the fans really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think some fans may not like me saying this, but I do think that Blood of the Nations is your strongest album. I mean, when I first heard that, I was just totally blown away. I mean, it was just like, wow, from what was it, Predator, I guess it was in
Right.
96. From 96
Mm-hmm.
to 2010, there was nothing, and then you came
Right.
back with an album that just wasn't okay or good. It was sort of career defining. Talk to me a little bit about that album. How do you look back on it now, and how did you look at it, approaching it? Were you scared going into the process, going, "Uh-oh, we've got a new singer. It's been 15
Mm.
years."
No, I mean we were fearless and angry because some people had written the project off before it ever started, and we were full of enthusiasm and energy, really. I mean, we were really like a bunch of kids that got back together after all this long time, and we didn't have anything written. Nobody had any songs just laying around that we say, oh, we've got these songs, let's just record them. No, we really literally started from scratch. We didn't have anything. And within a matter of a few weeks, we had all that stuff piled up, and I still am amazed where it all came from because it happened very effortless in a way. I mean, we worked hard to, for months to get it done, but there was a pile of stuff just started to come in, flowing out of nowhere. It's just maybe just all the batteries were full. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely turned out wonderful. Mark, of course, is an incredible singer. What has he meant to you and also to the band? I mean, obviously, or from my perspective, he's added a new voice and a new flavor and really is part of sort of Accept 2.0. But what has he meant for you in terms of the band and the band's legacy?
Yeah, he also very much inspired us to write songs, because all of a sudden he can pretty much sing anything we want him to do. Where, with Udo it was much more limited to what worked and what didn't work. And Mark, man, he can, anything Peter and I come up with, he can perform. And so that opened a lot of doors musically for us, and that inspired us totally, But like I said before, we always try to stay close to what Accept fans are wanting to hear from us, because we could write a bunch of stuff that was left and right genre-wise, but I'm not sure if fans would really appreciate it that much, And that's also where Andy Sneap came in, especially during the Blood of the Nations recording. He really sort of forced us more to stay true to the course, because he grew up being an Accept fan and, listening to the old albums. And he came in with an expectation, all right, we're going to make a great new Accept album, but it better sound like I want it to sound as an Accept fan,
Yeah. By the way, Andy does fantastic work. Would you consider working with another producer at some point? And I don't mean to insult Andy because I think he's absolutely brilliant, but is there a time where you could think, we need a different flavor, we need a different set of ears, or are you sort of locked in with Andy for better or for worse until Accept is done?
Till death do us part, man.
Yeah. Well, it's not.
Yeah, pretty much. I think he's a part of the family now. We want him to be the guy, and he's definitely on board, man. If he is on board, and if he has time, we'll definitely want him to be the one. Absolutely. I mean, that would be the only thing that I could consider working with somebody else if he was like booked out for the next 2 years and we have to make an album and something like that happens. But other than that, musically, as personality-wise, we work together really, really well. He's a good friend.
Would you ever consider producing an Accept album yourself?
We have done that in the past, Balls to the Wall, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of people know that, but we've done it ourselves. But in reality, it's, of course, not everybody in the band is involved in. But I'm not sure that's that. I like the fact having, an outside ear to come in and bounce ideas off of, and also being some sort of a objective guy in the middle. Because a lot of times in situations, there's two opinions, and somebody has to step in and say, this is what we do, I prefer this, and then there's the solution.
Yeah, I've always liked outside ears. Balls to the Wall being the exception, but I think most albums that are produced by the band just are
Yeah,
missing something. I think they need that little
it's
tweak.
true. It's
It,
true.
it really is. And you recently said in an interview that was done in June that you would never partake in a fake farewell tour. Is that something that you're even contemplating at this point of hey, it's time to stop accept? Because I could see you guys
No.
sort of being like BB King and going until you drop kind of thing.
If I had my way, maybe that's what would happen. Yeah, we'll see, because I like doing this. And, I think actually in a weird way, being an artist and a musician, if you think about it, you're not really supposed to ever retire. I think you do this until you drop dead in a way. If you stay healthy enough to do it, and why would you, what else would you do? I mean, after all, in a weird way, we've already been retired before, all of us. We've had our time off from this world, and it was great and very helpful, and it made us come back stronger and, better than ever, with more enthusiasm than ever before. So now the idea of to retire again, it's not very appealing. I don't know. Why would I want that? Because nobody forced me to come back, and we did it because we wanted to.
Yeah.
So unless we're forced to for health reasons or whatever, I don't think we'll keep going for a good long time.
Yeah, and that's the way I see it. I think retirement is meant if you're an accountant or if you're,
Right.
right. At some point you just get fed up and it's time to walk away. But as a musician, you were sort of put on earth to create, and you can't just retire from creating. I mean, it seems
Right. No.
bizarre as a
Yeah.
concept, but there's always farewell tours out there, and people are always saying, well.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I shouldn't talk because we've already done sort of a farewell tour at one point in the 90s, and we thought this is it and we'll never come back. But we honestly believed it at that point because the band was coming to an end and we all felt it, and we thought, okay, this is it. But, here we are 20 years later, coming, back in the business, back in the saddle, and and what I meant in that other interview is like, we'll never do a fake one where we knew, wink, wink, we just call it the, farewell tour, but really, if things go well, we'll do another one after that.
Yeah, I know bands that have done that in the past, and it's a great
Well,
marketing toy.
At this point, who hasn't done it?
Right.
It's more like it. It seems like everybody is announcing the last tour, and then while it's happening, they're going like, "Yeah, but it's not over yet until we say it's over." And so it's like, come on, man.
I mean, I think some of them genuinely start off honestly believing it, but
I believe that, yeah. Especially the Scorpions. I think that's really how it happened. And I can't blame them. We might have blamed anybody, really. I mean, but I think for the fans, it's becoming a little bit ridiculous at some point, and they stop really buying into it.
I do want to ask you about that time where you were sort of off and Accept was, no longer a band at that point. They were sort of gone. Why
Right.
didn't you join another band? Why didn't, for example, the Scorpions call you up and say, "Hey, we need a guitarist. Would you join us?" Or why did you sort of stay? Disconnecting calls seems to be a theme on the last few episodes. I do apologize, but let's get right back into it. Here is, once again, the great Wolf Hoffmann.
You were asking why I was never wanted to join another band, or
right? Why
didn't
didn't you become, the third guitarist in the Scorpions, or the second guitarist in whatever band? Why did you sort of stay off the radar for those years?
Really, I was quite fed up with the music business because I thought heavy metal was great while it lasted, and I thought it's over pretty much. I thought, I didn't really want to go down the path of having my own band that sort of sounds like Accept and competes with the legacy of Accept, because I saw myself playing in smaller bars and clubs and basically being a cover band of Accept. Didn't really want to do that. That kind of horrified me. I wanted all or nothing in that respect. And then, I figured, let me rather walk away and do something completely different. It's much more interesting to me, and start from fresh with another career. And so I did. It was my choice. And I think it was much harder than staying in the music business because nobody knew me in the world of photography, and I pretty much had to start from the ground up at zero. But it was fun, and it's, I succeeded, became quite successful at that, and that was my choice of spending my years.
Oh, okay. So let me ask you about that then. If you're rebuilding your name and it's in a different field, it's photography, and it was successful, as you just said, why stop and then go back to Accept? Because when you came back, there really was no guarantee. It could have been an absolute failure.
Yeah. Because I tell you why. Because it's much more rewarding to make music for me, anyhow. Because I realized at a certain point, my legacy, if there is such a thing ever, it's going to be guitar playing. And this is what I'm really on this earth for, if you want. Because photography is great and it's fun. I enjoy it. But it doesn't really have the same impact on my life or the same staying power. Photography is a commodity in a way. Nobody's looking at pictures from 5 years ago, unless they're historic or something. But other than that, it's something that you throw away and forget about. Where music, it stays on forever in a weird way. People still cherish albums we made 30 years ago, and we still play songs we've written 30 years ago. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I thought you were going to continue with that, but no, you're right. And there are some photographers, like Ross Halfin and stuff that have had a success, but it really is the music. Music defines a life, right? I mean, we all have our soundtracks of high school and marriage and the wedding song and music is just that other level. It really is. And
to me, it showed me, I mean, it's not how it impacts me. It also impacts the fans much, much more. I mean, this is, I was sort of blown away by the fact that people hadn't forgotten about Accept, and the events that triggered that whole realization for me were some shows we did in 2005 where we did festival shows in Europe with the original lineup. And I thought there wasn't any more Accept fans, but boy, was I wrong. They were everywhere, and they were singing along to those old songs, and I thought, like, wow, there's so much more, to this music side of things, and made me realize that I'm really here to play music and not to be a photographer. So right. We took the risk and started all over with music again. Yeah, I don't regret it for one moment, but
and it really paid off. And I think when you look back to 2005 and you look at the fans and they're singing Balls to the Wall, even though you've played it 1,000 times and you're probably sick of it, you see that spark in their eyes and you go, yeah, it's worth it. It really is worth it.
Yeah, it totally is. It totally is. And no, I never get sick of playing that song. That's another question people always wonder about. No, I mean, if you have that kind of song, you never get sick of that, and you never get sick of the reaction of the fans. It's just something that you very much cherish and hold on to. It's great to have these songs. They've been with us for all these years, and they'll probably never go away. But this is very dear to us, or to me.
Can a song like Balls to the Wall, though, be one of those songs that is just so big and so ubiquitous that you just become that band, and record companies go, no, we want another Balls to the Wall. Like, can it be too big sometimes?
No, maybe in the pop world it could be, but I don't think in our case it's really. I mean, yes, it is our strongest song, and there's probably more people knowing that song in the general public than even know the band name Accept. But man, between the fans that we have, there's so much more, and they know the catalog so much. We've got quite a repertoire of songs that people really like. So we're not really fall into that category of a sort of that one-hit wonder, I would say. That's more of a pop phenomenon, I think.
Yeah, well, but I mean, I do look at a band like Kiss, for example, and they've got Rock and Roll All Night, and it's like, well, where's that second one? Where's the third one? Why can't you write another one like it? And I can see bands falling into that. Anyhow, Wolf, always a pleasure to speak with you, and I certainly hope that at some point the new album turns into some kind of like special concert performance where you bring out the orchestra. Because I think that would be
that would be
neat.
fabulous. Oh, totally. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, to get together at some point. Definitely, this would be a dream come true. Yeah, definitely would like to do that. You know, you never know. We might even come to Canada with it. You know.
Well, listen, I know people. I can always make a few calls.
You know people. I like that.
I know people. I can make a few calls and see what can happen, because I think that actually would be a unique presentation. You know, there's a few festivals in Canada. There's Heavy Montreal and there's other ones, and I think that's the kind of unique performance that'll drive fans to it. You know.
I agree. That's how I could see that, definitely. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, because it's certainly not a show that you want to see, you know, at a club in Berlin. I mean, I think it needs a big stage and a big presentation and the whole spectacle, because otherwise, come on, right?
Yeah, I know. I agree. I can totally picture it.
Well, we're gonna have to make it happen.
Make some calls. Call your people. And we'll get it.
Yes,
we'll get it going. All right.
Thank you, Wolf. Always a pleasure. And Accept in 2017. Very much looking forward to that too.
Yeah, man. We'll talk to you then. Take
Cheers.
care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All the best. Bye-bye.
And there you have it, folks. My interview with guitarist Wolf Hoffmann from the band Accept. His new solo album is Headbangers Symphony, available now. I do recommend you check that out. While you're checking stuff out, though, please head over to Twitter. Check me out at Mitch Lafon, and on Facebook, one-on-one Mitch Lafon. If you are an Accept fan and want to catch them on the road, their full 2017 tour schedule is now up at acceptworldwide.com, so please head over and check that out. And let me check out of this episode. That is it. That is all. Bye for now, and thank you. Oh my.